I sure hope this sermon makes sense. I'm on every different kind of quill there is. I've had day quill, night quill, porcupine quills. If this thing hangs on, I can't wait for pumpkin spice quill. So we'll give this a try. Here we go. You would be amazed to learn how many people think that the phrase, neither a borrower nor a lender be, comes from the Bible. It might be more helpful and convenient if that were the phrase's origin. But the entire phrase, neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry, comes from the play Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Laertes is about to travel to Paris to discover what adulthood is all about, and Polonius, his well-heeled father, is offering him his wise counsel. In America, we seem to put a high value on debt-free living. The viziers of finance within and outside the church have held up the virtues of being neither a borrower nor a lender. There is biblical warrant. Consider this verse from the Proverbs: the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender. In Leviticus, you shall not lend him your money at interest, nor give him your food for profit. Deuteronomy offers these words: the Lord will open to you his good treasury, the heavens, to give the rain to your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hands. And they shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. We like the sound of that living. There's something that seems good and right and proper about all that business of not lending and not borrowing, of course with more emphasis on the not lending and less emphasis on the less borrowing. When relatives or friends come calling, looking to borrow, we are suspicious, and the character of the relationship changes. For loan oft loses both itself and friend. We get that. We understand that. But then along comes Paul. And Paul says, owe no one anything except to love one another. And with those words, Paul offers us a new way to understand the Christian life. Let's remember Paul's mission. Paul wants to partner with God to change the world. He wants the message and mission of Jesus Christ to spread like wildfire. He wants to see the world transformed from darkness to light. And he has a pretty good idea of where to start. The capital of the empire is Rome. If you want to change the empire, begin in the capital. He writes to the Christians in Rome, reminding them of what it will mean to live the life of a Christian. Now, he could have said to the Romans, keep the commandments. And an astute Roman would have responded by asking, which ones? There are 613 commandments in the Torah. I suppose you could memorize them all in order to be sure that you never broke a single one. But I have reached that tender age where I can't remember where I put my car keys. So memorizing 613 commandments and having the capacity to recall them in an instant is probably not going to happen for me. Of course, you go right ahead and try. Paul could have trotted out some technical plan of organization with committees and subcommittees and task force. It could have had big boxes and arrows and colors, lots of colors, delineating the responsibilities and the process by which the church in Rome would change the world. Paul could have created a master plan. Yeah, a master plan. And we know how well those work. So you might give that a whirl. Or maybe Paul could have started a course on how to change the world. There were probably some in the church at Rome that thought they were incapable of doing anything of such grandeur and would have said to him, Paul, I'm just not adequately trained or prepared for such work. Could you offer a course at the church on a night of the week when I'm not at the Colosseum? Paul could have employed any of those approaches and many more, but he didn't. Had he used anything of the kind, he would have undermined the most central understanding of the Christian faith: grace. Paul teaches instead, owe no one anything except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. Love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. Paul clearly understood, and his words continue to teach us to this day, that our part of the mission of transforming the world into what God intends it to be will only be fulfilled as we begin to interact with our neighbors within the church and beyond the church in ways that reflect authentic love. This love is not to be kept secret. It isn't just for people in the church. This isn't just having that love in your heart. We love. And the love we owe others is for all others, not just some, not just the other who looks like us, not like just the other who is in the same economic class, not just the other who is as educated as we are, not just the other who lives as we live. The love Paul commands us to live is a love that is given freely to all. And this love, when freely shared and freely received, will change the world. That is Paul's sure belief. When we act in love toward every other human being in the world will begin to change. To make the point, Paul uses metaphors that speak clearly. Let us then lay aside the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. Let us live honorably, as in the day, not in reveling and drunkenness, not in debauchery and licentiousness, not in quarreling and jealousy. Instead, put on the Lord Jesus Christ. In the void of darkness, we shine the penetrating light of love. In a world that wobbles and teeters like a drunk in a windstorm, we are to walk uprightly and decently. Paul calls it living honorably. We as God's people are called to live with integrity, honesty, truthfulness, principle, and sincerity. Peter Gomes, the late Peter Gomes, longtime chaplain at Harvard University, tells a story on himself of when he was a young person. He had laid a plan to go to a movie theater after class to see what might be called a rather racy movie. When he got to the theater, he went to buy his ticket, and he realized that the ticket seller was a friend of his family. She looked at Peter and asked the question that every child hates to hear. Does your mother know where you are? The idea of his mother knowing where he was and what he was doing was too great a burden for young Peter to bear, and he did not buy the ticket. when we live the law of love. When love for God and love for neighbor is our creed and our practice, the world around us responds and begins the transformation from the kingdom of shadows and darkness into the kingdom of light and love. When we live the law of love, we stop seeing differences and we begin seeing commonalities. When we live the law of love, it no longer matters who said what, who did what, who loves who came from where, or any of the other divisive and destructive approaches to people that we may have practiced in the past. We are called to something new. We are called to a new way of life. We are called by God to live into the law of love and to transform the world around us. Make no mistake, it is not easy to do. But it is the way to true and authentic life for now and evermore. Amen.